Oh, baby, nah, that ain't gonna work.
Hey everybody, my name is Asia and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Thrilling Thrillers book tag. So I know this isn't a Christmassy video, but I'm posting it for Bookmas because I was tagged in it and I want to make sure to get it up because I've been tagged in so many tags lately and have not posted them. I talked about this in my festive Christmas book tag as well, which I just filmed before this.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
But so we have the Christmas tree background because if I go anywhere else, the lighting's not going to be good. This is the best lighting we're going to get at, what time is it? 6 p.m. Okay. And my house is empty, so we're good to film. Okay. This never happens. So I was tagged to do this tag by Savannah from Riveting Reads and Jessie from Reading with Jess. And so obviously I was going to do this tag because 2 people tagged me in it, so I had to do it. Yeah, but this tag is going to be a little hard for me because I have not read too many thrillers. Like, it's definitely a genre that I want to get into more. It's just a hard place to find where to start, if that makes sense. And I feel like romance is kind of the same. So it's definitely just a genre that I'm going to get more into in 2021. So please, if you have any recommendations, please leave them down below. So the first question is the last thriller that you bought. So this question's kind of hard for me just because why the frickin' frack did the bop it just turn on by itself? That scared the crap out of me. So this question's kind of hard for me because it was just my birthday, so I obviously got sent a lot of thrillers, and the last ones that I received were 9.
You're leaving the house?
For real?
Girl. Yeah, you better. No.
I hate it here!
So as I was saying, this is hard for me because it was just my birthday, but the last thrillers that I received were from my friend who bought them for me. So the first one is 5 Total Strangers, and this one gives me very No Exit vibes, and In a Dark Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. I believe this is a thriller. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure it is. But the last one that I bought with my own money and I did not receive is One by One by Ruth Ware. Kind of interesting that I just got 2 new Ruth Wares, her first book and her latest book. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I feel like not a lot of people have read it yet, but I really am interested to see because this also really gives me kind of it doesn't necessarily give me No Exit vibes, but it's kind of like isolated, snowy. But I got 5 Total Strangers and One by One, which is interesting that I like that kind of thriller apparently. But we do have like a tropes question coming up later, so we'll get to that when we get to it. The next question is, show us the thriller that you've most recently added to your TBR. And for me, that would be The Chain, and I heard about this like probably last year. I know like Gabby from Gabby Reads talked about it, but everybody was talking extremely negatively about this. But my friend really loved this book, so I am officially adding it to my TBR, so then that way I can read it myself and determine my own opinion. Question 3 is, what thriller did you have high expectations for and ultimately let you down? And that is The Other People by CJ Tudor. I've heard such good things about CJ Tudor, and I think I read this actually for the Literally Dead book club this year, and I just didn't like it. Like, I don't know what I didn't vibe with. I just think that, I know domestic thrillers are really popular, but I think I'm kind of finding out that domestic thrillers are not my favorite. I don't think they're bad by any means. I think there's definitely some that I can love, but domestic thrillers are not really my personal favorite. I think things that involve families and kids are just not as interesting. I don't know why. Like, I feel like some of them are really good. Like, and it's just an unpopular opinion. I know a lot of people don't really like legal thrillers, and I like legal thrillers, so I think it's just kind of like a personal thing. For some reason, it just didn't vibe. I think it was really slow. The twist didn't make sense to me. Like, I just didn't understand like why that twist was there. And yeah, just overall, I wasn't a fan of that book. So question 4 is, what tropes do you hate and love in thrillers? And so I actually wrote them down, so I'm gonna be looking at them because it took me a while. And so the one that I love is mixed media. Disgusting! I love this in all books, but I really like this in thrillers. I've read 2 thrillers that have this aspect, and I really love it in thrillers, and I started a horror with it in it too, and I just really think that it adds a lot to the thrilling aspect, especially if it's like a legal thriller, which are like the kinds that I like. And then I really like detective slash amateur detective. I know a lot of people don't like detective thrillers either. Maybe I just don't like the type of thrillers that a lot of other booktubers like. I don't know, because I've heard a lot of people really don't like legal thrillers and really don't like detective perspectives. But when I say like amateur detective too, I really like when there's a character who's trying to figure out a mystery, like in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, when Pip is really trying to figure out that murder mystery, and I just really like that. Speaking of figuring out murder mysteries, I wrote down classic murder mystery. So yeah, anything where somebody gets murdered, I really like when people are trying to figure it out. It's just, I don't know, like I really like it. So I really like a great main character as well. So a character who has not great traits. I also really enjoy thrillers with serial killers. I feel like I haven't read that many, but I know of some and I definitely want to get to them. But anything with like serial killers like seems so fascinating to me. And so I really think that I just really like that trope. I also really like it in movies and TV shows, especially when they're like the main character, like in You by Carolyn Kepnes. I really enjoy that book and the TV show. I really like things that are isolated, as I said, like No Exit and things like that. And then I also said cults. I don't think I've actually read a cult thriller, but I've watched like cult thriller movies and horror movies, and so I think that I would really like that transferring over into books. So like, as I said, like it's hard for me to answer some of these questions because I'm not as well versed in thrillers, so I'm trying to take from other things that I know, like horror and movies and TV shows. And usually my taste in movies and TV shows tend to carry over into books as well. And so things that I hate Amnesia. I think everybody hates Amnesia. It's just not good because it's such a like cop out. Like you're just like, oh, they forgot. Like, okay. I can still hear the bop it and I put it in another room.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
That's scary. And I also really hate when someone was supposed to be dead and they come back and they're like, just kidding, I'm alive. Like this happened in a video game. So my brother-in-law and my sister, they love video games, and so they play them a lot. And so they had this one that was kind of like a movie and you make decisions, but it, like we watched him just play the whole thing and it was like so interesting because it just had like a movie plot line in it and it was so good. But like one of the characters did this where they were like supposed to be dead and then they actually weren't dead. But I was like, okay, that was a choice.
We all make choices, but that was a choice.
I really also don't like thrillers with doppelgangers. This is something very specific. I like shows with doppelgangers if they're like fantasy, but in thrillers and things like that, like I just don't like it as like a twist or anything. Question 5 is recommend an underrated thriller. As I said, I'm not that well versed, so I kind of picked one that was like thriller horror, and that is The Butterfly Garden. And I really like this book. I haven't heard too many people talk about it. Actually, I have a vlog on it. It's actually my most viewed video because I made the title very clickbaity. I said the most disturbing book I've ever read. It is really disturbing. There's a lot of trigger warnings. That vlog is completely non-spoilery, so if you want to make sure that you're not going to get triggered by this book, go watch my vlog. It's been a little bit of time, so it would be hard for me to remember all the trigger warnings, but basically there's like molestation, rape, pedophilia, kidnapping, yeah. So just go watch to make sure that you get all of the trigger warnings. I put them even in the very beginning of the video, so you don't even have to watch that far. But I think this is like kind of a theme for me. Like I like really messed up thrillers. Like my favorite ones are like the ones with something really not okay going on. That's why I really want to get into Karen Slaughter because I know her books are so messed up and I'm just excited. I'm excited to read a Karen Slaughter and get messed up too. So the next question is pick 3 thrillers from your shelves, 2 that you read and 1 that you haven't read, and then have you guys guess which one I haven't read. So I picked ones that I've never really talked about on my channel in general. Unless you go like kind of far back, you might be able to figure it out, but these ones I generally don't speak of as much. The first one that I have is Final Girls by Riley Sager. The next one that I have is Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty, and the last one that I have is Sadie by Courtney Summers. So I actually made this really hard because it was either going to be really easy or really hard. So if you guys can guess which one I haven't read, I'll actually be really impressed. So these are the 3 again: Final Girls, Big Little Lies, and Sadie. And I'll actually put in the description box down below what the answer is, like underneath, so you guys can't see it. But if you want to check for the answer, I'll put it down in the description box. After you put it in the comments, don't cheat. The next question is people are often intimidated by the thriller genre. Recommend a thriller to new beginners. Then like the first one that I would say that I ever read, like a true adult thriller, was No Exit by Taylor Adams. I know everybody talks about this, but it's just because it's that good. Like I would so recommend this book. It's just, it's so good. It's about our main character Darby, and she's driving home during a wintry snowstorm, like to her parents' house, and she is obviously in a snowstorm, so it's like a blizzard. So she pulls off to a rest stop and she's trapped there with 4 strangers, and and then she goes out to try and like contact her family, being like, hey, like I'm gonna be late, or like I don't know what's going on because like of the blizzard. And when she is outside trying to get cell reception, she looks into somebody's car and sees that there's a kid in a cage in the back of the van. And so it kind of takes off from there of like her trying to figure out who actually has this kid in their van. And there's so many twists and turns, and it's so like isolated and scary, and like the end had me shook, bro. Like obviously this is like a bad situation, but this escalated 10,000 times more than I ever thought it would. And like it makes sense progressive wise. Like it's not just like 0 to 10 real quick. It's like it slowly starts to escalate, and the end is literally explosive. You actually figure out quite early on who actually has the kid in the van and like who the van belongs to. And I was like, oh shoot, like why would we learn so early? But it works out. Like don't fret if that happens, because I was like, we are finding out this early, but it works out. So don't even fret about that. It's okay. Question 8 is, what are your favorite thrillers? And obviously No Exit is one of them. I still love it. It's so good. And the other one that I have to go with is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I talked about this like this whole video. This is a mystery. It's a YA, so I would say that one's my favorite adult, and this is my favorite YA. It's so good. Like it doesn't really read like a YA. For some thriller readers this may not be thrilling enough, but I loved it, and everybody that I've recommended this to has really enjoyed it. It's so good. Like please, if you're scared because this is YA and it's kind of more of like a mystery than a thriller, it is really thrilling. Like I would not say it's like No Exit thrilling, because obviously that's really isolated, but I feel like if you like domestic thrillers that are more like quietly thrilling, you might like this, or murder mysteries, or if you like true crime, you will definitely like this. If you read true crime nonfiction, or if you just like true crime in general, you'll really like this book. And in this book we follow our main character Pip, and she is doing like her final high school project, and you could do it on anything. And so she decides to investigate this disappearance that happened in her town a couple years ago, and so everybody kind of assumes it was the boyfriend of the girl and he just killed her, but that's not really confirmed, and Pip doesn't believe it, so she decides to investigate it. It's explained why it's not confirmed and everything like that, and it makes sense. But yeah, this book is so good. Please pick it up. I think it's so underrated. Question 9 is tag some fellow book lovers, and I'm not going to tag anybody just because I know a lot of people have already been tagged recently. I thought this tag was kind of newer, but it's actually quite old, but it's recently had a resurgence in the thriller community, and so a lot of people have already done it, and so I'm not going to tag anybody, but you can say I tagged. That's all that I have for this video. Make sure to comment down below which of these 3 thrillers you think I have not read. It's a little fun game, and then check the description box for the answer. It'll probably like be buried like in the middle or something, so you guys have to actually dig to find it, so you can't spoil yourselves. But that's all that I have for this video, as I said, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!